Hi everyone, welcome to another video. This week I thought I would just jump straight in and talk about the term tenure. Now, I know lots of us in this group, some of us are working at university, some of us are thinking about working at universities, we're in different places around the world, but tenure is a term that is linked to academic university progression. And, I just thought I'd chat a little bit about what I understand about the term and how it applies to me in the UK versus somebody, say, working in the US or Canada. So if you're new to the academic world, you might not have heard the term before. When I was working in industry, I had US-based colleagues who were on the tenure track. So I could see from an outside perspective what it was like to be working to get tenure. So what even is tenure in the first place? So when I think of tenure, I definitely think of US and Canadian universities. And I think of it as a system where the academics are working hard to get effectively what is a guaranteed's a strong word, but a kind of a permanent guaranteed contract at the university. So what tenure is designed to do, when it was kind of conceived, it was designed to give academics a permanent contract at a university. It was designed to make it hard for the university to terminate that contract, and that was to allow the academic to really have research freedom. So if you feel that you've got good job security, as an academic, then you feel, I guess, more tempted potentially to explore or challenge maybe some of the controversial research ideas in your field. It was also designed to help support the local economy. If you have good professors who are kind of locked into universities, then it's good for teaching within that environment. It's good for the research culture within that environment. Really then, tenure is all about stability. It's promoting stability at the university and for the individual who holds tenure. Now, it is not an easy thing to get. And I think typically you're looking at 7 years to progress through and hopefully achieve tenure at the end. But it's a lot of pressure. I know that colleagues have said, if you don't get tenure, then quite often you do something quite different and you change field, you leave university, maybe you go into industry. So, it can be, I think, quite pressurised if you're working to get tenure, and you're very much scrutinised as you're going through that process. They are looking at your teaching, they are looking at your departmental involvement, but they're also really looking at your research. So I think if you're working to get tenure, I think it's a tough business. And I think it's a hard thing to do. And I know some people have like tenure parties that when they get this wonderful freedom and secure tenure, they have a big party to celebrate because it is such a big moment to get there, to get it. And tenure is not really something we do at UK universities. I am not on the tenure track. I'm not striving to get tenure because it just doesn't really exist in the UK in that sense. And for those of us who are on this pathway of research, teaching, and the admin duties as well, we're striving to get these permanent contracts. And for most of us on that pathway of lecturer to senior lecturer to reader professor, most of us start by entering as a lecturer on a probationary period. And these probation periods can be quite long. I'm not talking a few weeks here. Typically you're looking up to 3 years of being on probation before you come off onto your permanent contract. So it's nowhere near as long as the US process to get tenure. And again, you can move on to a permanent contract in the UK without needing to be promoted from lecturer to senior lecturer. So the systems are quite different. Often people at universities who are working on a research-only pathway, they will have shorter-term fixed contracts. And only in some subjects will there be these permanent research contracts that you can get at the university. Typically, it's your lecturers and your senior lecturers and your readers and professors who are on these permanent contracts. And it's the permanent contract that's really the closest comparison to getting tenure at a US university or tenure at a Canadian university. But as I said, they're quite different. You know, the US system is very rigorous. You have to get promoted. You have to go from being assistant to associate to full professor in order to secure your tenure. Whilst in the UK, you can just do your lectureship on a probationary contract and then you become a permanent lecturer afterwards. And it's quite an interesting topic, tenure. There's pros and cons. Some people say tenure is amazing because once you've got that security from the university of saying, yes, we're going to keep you employed if we possibly can, then you've got that freedom to go off and really be creative with your research interests. But some people say that tenure is a not such a useful idea, because if you've got tenure, then what is your motivation maybe for continuing to have high, excellent standards in teaching and admin, because you know you've got that position. And these days, tenure is not you've got a job for life at that university. That's not how it works. It's you've got a job unless there is a justified cause under certain circumstances, which means the university can then terminate your contract. And so by that, I mean the certain circumstances would be the department closes or there isn't enough funding to actually keep the department running. It basically, what tenure means is that they have to evaluate your contract and your position and have a justified, logical, kind of watertight reason as to why you're going to be made redundant. So tenure is not a guarantee to always have a job at a university. What tenure is a guarantee that your job will be properly evaluated should the university ever need to consider shrinking or closing down a department. And tenure is not something that you get in the US and then you've got forevermore. If you've got tenure at one university and you want to change university, the new university doesn't have to guarantee you tenure. So that it's all done by negotiation. They look at what you've got at your current university and you negotiate with them your terms for your new contract at the new university. And sometimes they will say, well, come across and you're on a 1-year probation and then we will honour your tenure. But again, it's up to that new university and yourself to kind of negotiate how that tenure is going to transfer. As I said, I am not part of the US system. I am a UK lecturer. So I've seen friends go through this, but if you are going through the US tenure track, leave us a comment. What is it like to be part of a tenure track process? You know, is it motivating? Is it stressful? I imagine you feel like quite a lot of pressure on you if you're wanting to hit this tenure because of this time limit, this expectation that you'll do it in about 7 years. And then if you don't do it, the idea that maybe academic life is not for you. It's quite brutal, that. It's quite tough, but maybe I'm interpreting it wrong as somebody looking in from the UK model. Here in the UK, for me, the thing was to get a permanent contract. So, you know, I did my probation period, and then when I came off it, I was very pleased then to go onto a permanent contract. My background's in industry, so I was used to having a permanent rolling cycle contract. And it was quite strange going from industry to academia and losing that, if you like, and having to go back onto probation. You know, it's a bit of a jolt to go from a permanent contract onto a probationary contract. And I'm very pleased now to be back onto a permanent contract again. But yeah, very different, and other places do it very differently. So I was starting to look at other countries like Germany and Denmark, different systems. So again, if you're in a different country, leave us a note. What happens where you are? And, you know, do you have tenure or do you have, like we just have, permanent contracts and open contracts? Anyway, that's probably enough talking about tenure. Thank you so much for watching the video last week about the research pathways. I know a lot of people now are interested in the research only or the teaching only pathway to university, so I will definitely chat about that a bit more in the future. But I hope you're having a good week. I was able to meet my research team last week for a picnic, so we could meet outside, we threw a frisbee around, listened to some music. It was such a sunny day in the UK, so it was a real treat to be out on the campus fields overlooking the lake. Getting excited about graduation. That's happening in a couple of weeks' time. So I'm gearing up and I'll be able to fill you in on how graduation is working in a COVID secure way. I hope you're able to look after yourselves. You know, the world is still a tricky place, so stay safe, keep looking after yourselves. If you're new to the channel and you're into all things university life, do hit like, click the subscribe button. I think there's a notification bell button that people are meant to push, or I'm meant to encourage people to push. I don't think I've ever said that in a video, so feel free to join our academic group. If you're new, I'm Caroline. I'm a UK-based university physics lecturer, and I do a video every Monday at 10 o'clock. So if there's something you're curious about, leave me a note. If not, have an awesome week, and I will see you next Monday. Bye.